Wow. What a ball game. What a freaking ball game. Thank goodness for Malik Monk, huh? Wow. 138 to 135. The Kings hold on and they win in double overtime. Woof. Wow. What a ball game. What a ball game. This thing went back and forth, back and forth. Both teams had many chances to win this game. But Malik Monk, on a game in which De'Aaron Fox did not play well, Malik Monk saved the day. All right? Monk had 37 points on 20 shots. He also had 9 assists. Malik Monk, give him the freaking game ball, would you please? The Kings win it 138 to 135. They had to play an extra 10 minutes in this game. But you know what? They got the W. Light the beam. Postgame right here on If You Don't Like That.
3, 2, 1, go.
Sacramento miscue. Carter. Stolen by Williams. And look at this. Oh, you don't like that. You don't like NBA basketball.
Fox. Goodbye. Oh, if you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball. The exclamation point from De'Aaron Fox. Oh, if you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball.
Boy, that's an ESPN highlight right there. Whoa. Carlson comes in. How about this? Holy moly, Jim Bob Foley. That is a major league smush.
Ryan in Sacktown, Malik Monk, game ball. He saved the day for the Kings. I just said that on a night where De'Aaron Fox was atypical. In 44 minutes, he couldn't put the ball in the ocean. You got absolutely nothing from Duarte. You got nothing from Herter, but you have Malik Monk. 46 minutes he played. Think about that. He played 46 minutes and ended up with 37.
Think about that fall he took, Grant.
Yep.
That wasn't just a little fall. That is a serious play. And Grant, more than the 37 points, it's the heart that Malik brought tonight. It's the fight that he brought. He was all over the court. And I think it's kind of that little ingredient that we feel like we've been missing a little bit here in Sacramento when they win.
Wow, a lot of minutes played by a lot of players, and they'll conclude this 3-game homestand, against Toronto. There's a lot of games here coming up fast and furious, but it would have been this would have been so hard to play this long, this hard, and lose this game. Boy, that would have made this game coming up with Toronto a really difficult challenge. But this was a game the Kings had to have. They figured out how to do it, and now they move on. So, you know what? I'll take it. Everyone else will take it.
Yeah, I mean, the chatter would have been unbelievable had the Kings lost this game. But in reality, you have a team in Orlando who is 28th in the NBA at shooting the 3-ball. They come in tonight, have a magical Kingdom night in Sacramento from behind the arc.
56%.
Unbelievable.
I know.
56%.
56%.
And Paolo Banchero, if you haven't heard of him yet, Zach, you've heard of him now.
Wow. How good is he? Wow.
Special. Grant, how long until we get, hey, let's trade for Banchero. We need Banchero. We get Banchero, this team wins a championship.
I'll pick him up at the airport. Although he's already here. I don't have to pick him at the airport.
Yeah. We know a couple good restaurants we could take him. Bennett.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I have a restaurateur that will probably be very happy to give him whatever he wants.
This is that's going to be a dang good New York steak, my friend. Hey, Paolo, come here, buddy.
So you got a quick turnaround coming up here to take on Toronto. But first things first, you get the win in double overtime. So I just can't say enough about Monk. He was incredible tonight. As you said, he brought everything that you needed in this game. There were a couple of times where I didn't think the Kings were going to win this game. I just didn't think they were going to win the game.
Yeah, it had its moments, but at no point did it feel like the energy, the effort wasn't there. I mean, it felt like if the Kings were going to lose, it's because the Magic were going to beat them. I mean, really, you look across the board how the Kings played tonight, probably their most balanced performance, doing it inside, doing it a little bit outside, and everybody stepped up in those moments when they needed them.
Well, that's the key right there. So happy to have everybody here. Light the beam. For the first time in 2024. Yes, indeed. Light that beam for the first time and get ready for the final game of this 3-game homestand. It was an entertaining game, to say the least. I mean, it was entertaining. Okay, I'm not so sure it was the best played game I've ever seen, but it was very entertaining. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, it was entertaining. It had its moments. It had
Yep.
its drama. It had its bad calls, etc. But Grant, not many games on the calendar we can point to where the Kings had these ups and downs that you would face. It kind of, in a way, Grant, felt like a playoff game to a degree. Not because of the intensity in the crowd, but just the way the teams picked it up towards the end.
The one thing that is going to hurt this team in this new year, their free throw shooting's terrible. They missed 10
It's
tonight.
awful.
It's terrible. They missed 10. They missed 10 free throws.
Starts with their leaders, Grant. Starts with
Yeah.
Sabonis and Fox.
Yeah.
And from there on, I mean, those are the two that get the majority of the looks. Monk gets there, Barnes once in a while. But if they're going to do anything or win a series this year, that has to improve.
All right, you had Sabonis tonight with 22 points, 23 rebounds, 12 assists. All right. He did turn the ball over 6 times. He did the last
coming off 11.
Hours, he's turned the ball over a lot. Keegan Murray shot the ball much better tonight. I'm nitpicking here, but I'm doing this because I know how good this kid can be, and I root for him, and I want him to be one of those players. Okay, I'm bothered by the fact that he played 46 minutes tonight and didn't have one foul. Okay, that bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
He played 46. It doesn't bother you? It bothers me. He didn't commit one foul in 46 minutes.
We're watching different games. This kid was defending tonight. He was up and down. He was making smart plays. He wasn't overcommitting defensively. I get what you're saying, Grant. You're not playing hard unless you're fouling to a degree. But if we're going to his defensive performances, tonight was not one of them. Tonight he played great.
All right, he had 28 points and 12 rebounds. So, I'm very happy with that. Again, the bench really was. You had Lyles with 10 and then Monk. So, Malik Monk. I don't know what else to say about this guy. How many games do you think he's won for Sacramento this year?
Handful, easy, that we can say without even naming games. It just shows you when we talk about this trade deadline and what's looming for this team and what Malik's going to want, you just saw what his value is. And he's going to earn that money. And so he could be the most valuable piece, realistic valuable piece being dangled out there for this Kings team.
And he's going to get paid. And if the Kings don't pay him,
he deserves
someone else
it.
is going to pay him.
Grant, here's the thing that was clear tonight as the game got into the fourth and definitely into the overtimes. Malik and De'Aaron were on the floor together, and it wasn't just because Malik was hot. Malik, he was getting the defense tonight and making plays. So the Kings, if they're going to put their best foot forward, it's time that discussion start if Malik steps into that starting 2 role.
Well, I don't disagree with that. But then I also think that inflates his price. And you've talked about this, and Jerry's talked about this, and people online. So you have Fox, max deal, and that could change based on what you said with the All-NBA selection. Sabonis is making a ton of money. After next year, you're going to have to pay Keegan Murray big-time money. Do you have – this is Sacramento we're talking about. This isn't L.A.
Yeah.
It's not New York. Okay. You tell me, do they have enough money to do this?
Well, if they're going to do this, they're going to have to go into the tax. There's no ifs, ands, ors about it. The question becomes, and that's why these next multitude of moves are the most important, because it determines, do you get that piece where you're paying the tax, but you've got the hardware to show for it? Or do you got that bad contract to Durant wasting away?
All right. Appreciate the donation. Criticizing Katie, the most incorrect stat of all time, that Domas is the first player in NBA history to average 12 or more rebounds in 5 consecutive seasons. He lists the players. I don't watch the Kings broadcast. I haven't watched 1 second of the Kings broadcast since I left. All I get is complaints from everyone, both here, both on my social media accounts, both from friends. Kings minority owners text me. So from what I understand, I'm not missing a whole hell of a lot. If I watch the games, I watch the visiting teams feed, or I watch the games when they're on national TV. I have not watched one Kings telecast. So you're talking to the wrong guy. I can't really comment on that specifically.
Fair enough. Katie has her moments, but that's not an easy job to do. I'm sure Grant can tell you that.
It's not an easy job to do, but I don't want to get off on a tangent here, but since it's brought up, I'm going to do it. The biggest problem is that nobody, not one person, and I know this, trust me, at NBC Sports California, not one person knows anything about broadcasting. Nobody. I know, I've dealt with them, okay? They have no idea what the hell they're talking about. Now, I'm not talking about the people in the truck that I work with on an everyday basis, such as my producer and a director.
You're talking about the suits. You're talking about the people
suits that make the decisions, that hire people and, criticize people, and they have no idea what they're doing. And
grade you out.
We had since I worked in Sacramento doing the games for 32 years, there was only one individual, one in 32 years, that was a student of broadcasting and knew everything about what he was talking about and won multiple Emmys. And his name is Craig Amazine, who's no longer with the organization. Craig Amazine was a top shelf broadcast executive, top shelf. He was the director of broadcasting. He was great, okay? He had the ability and he had the moxie to call people into his office, put a tape in the machine, and critique them and have them sit down and learn, okay? There is nobody in the arena or in the studios of San Francisco that is able to do that. And I'm not bragging when I say this, okay? I could spend 1 hour with Katie and I could make her into a much better broadcaster. 1 hour, okay? And I would tell her, I'm going to go, hey, I'm going to tell you some things that you're not going to want to hear, but trust me, I've studied broadcasting my whole life. I'm a student of broadcasting, okay? Doesn't mean I know it all. Doesn't mean I'm perfect, but I could take her in 1 hour, okay? And I could make her walk out of that room as a better broadcaster. There is nobody in that building or at NBC Sports that is capable of doing that. And it's awful. It's terrible. And that's just the way it is.
Stinks for the talent. I mean, that's a tough world to be in, but it is what it is, like you said.
All right, so let's move on. A lot of people saying that they watch David Steele, and who's David doing the games with? Is he still doing it with Jeff? Is it still Jeff and Jeff Foster? Is it Jeff Foster? Gosh, I'm forgive me. I feel terrible now. Who's David Steele doing the games with? I love him. And he's such a class act. He's such a class act. All right, 138 to 135. And the Kings get the win. Their 20th of the year. And now they play again. Going to be a quick turnaround with back-to-back games and all these minutes. You're going to have to get your seatbelt fastened for the next game.
Against Toronto. Indeed, they're coming off of a win tonight against Memphis.
Right.
Quickly, 26 points. He's fitting in just right there.
Yeah.
Off the trade. But yeah, this is a tough week for the Kings, Grant. They play Friday. They play Sunday.
Yeah.
And they play big minutes. But I think the big positive is, in a way, I kind of feel like the season started tonight because they won the second night of a back-to-back, which a team with their record should have done by this point. But let's see how they bounce back.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, Grant, as you look at this team, one thing's clear to me. Mike Brown has no idea what his rotation is going to be on a night-to-night basis.
Yeah. By the way, I keep saying a 3-game homestand, and I keep forgetting about the Sunday matinee game, which is an afternoon game. So I apologize for that because that, to me, is the toughest game on this homestand. I mean, New Orleans. All right. And guess who's beat your ass in every game that they played this year? New Orleans, right?
Yep. Just like Grant doesn't like his jambalaya, New Orleans don't like they Kings.
Yeah. Well, so, but first things first, Toronto. So I keep on, I don't know why in my mind I keep saying 3, but yeah, it's a 4-game homestand. You've got the Pels coming up on Sunday. All right. Fox had one of those games. Well, let me go about it this way. If I had told you the stat line for De'Aaron Fox, not minutes played, forget about just his stat line, you would say, Napes, the Kings lost the game tonight, right? So they were able to win a game with a subpar De'Aaron Fox, and I think that's a real positive.
It's a huge positive. He was still distributing the basketball, 7 points. It shows to when this team wants to be talented or show what they can do offensively, they can do it multiple ways, and it was Malik's turn to take it tonight. But De'Aaron, he seemed impatient tonight, Grant. I mean, he was he's rushing his threes, taking some long shots. It wasn't anything really the defense did.
All right, Chase, with the $5 donation on the super chat, thank you very much. Yeah, a lot of people have been hitting me up on this. What about that awful reversal of a call at the end of overtime? That ball was clearly off Orlando. Your thoughts?
My thoughts is that's the age-old play where it might have been a foul, might have not, but we're going to give the ball to the team that it might have been the foul on or foul for. So now with replay, it mixes things up.
A win is a win, but I'm still not sold on this roster. I'm not either. I'm not sold on this roster at all. I'm just not. I think this team has got some real issues. And yeah, I'm not ignoring the fact that they're 20-13, but I'm not looking at the short term. I'm looking at the big picture for this year. And quite frankly, I don't see how this team could win a playoff series right now. Now, I know it's January, and it's not April, but, Fox is clearly in love with the 3 and jump shots. Well, guess what? That is how the game is played now. There's a moving screen on Sabonis. They didn't call. Listen, guys and gals, the game was 58 minutes tonight. Okay. If you think the officials are not going to make mistakes in a 58-minute game that's contested this fiercely, you're not being realistic. Yeah, there were missed calls, but that's part of sports and it's part of the game.
Yeah. How about we shift the conversation just a tad bit and not talk about what the refs did or didn't call and talk about Mike Brown? Does somebody have an EpiPen in case there is a challenge? It seems like he is allergic to him. There was 2 or 3 times this game where it felt appropriate and would have changed the tide to a degree.
I agree. I think you're making a great point. I'd like to get the reaction from the folks here on the stream. What do you think about Mike Brown and the challenges or lack thereof? I think you make a great point, Rhino. I really do.
It doesn't make, and Grant, it just doesn't make sense because by the letter of the law, even just that last play with Monk, the guy flopped when Monk hit him with the forearm up the sideline. The guy for Orlando literally flopped.
Well,
so they would have looked at that.
Well, they're saying that he used his challenge early and he lost it. Yeah, I don't. He is referring to this game, but it seems like this has been a pattern
as a whole.
Yeah, as a whole. He's not talking specifically about this game, but I'm with you.
Yeah.
So, well. I think it's got to get better. Fox is great. Just need to not to think he's Steph Curry. Well, he doesn't think he's Steph Curry. He thinks that he is De'Aaron Fox. All right, my goodness, Orlando had 25 threes knocked down. Remember back in 2009, the Magic knocked down 23 of 27, which was an NBA record. The game has changed. Mike Brown has no feel for the game. He's an average coach at best. Is that the same Mike Brown that was unanimous coach of the year last year, or is that a different Mike Brown? Ryan, is that the same Mike Brown that was the unanimous coach of the year for the first time in NBA history, or is this a different Mike Brown?
Well, Grant, my glasses are kind of thick, so let's put that grain of salt in there, but I'm pretty sure it's the same Mike Brown.
Okay. Good. You're at the game. Good for you. Agree with Cody. Brown chose the wrong time to challenge. Maybe. I don't disagree with that. I like to save my challenges for late in the game personally, but that is just me. Hey, I want to tell you about Calusa Sunrise and Sunrise Landing, which is beautiful, a project from Blazona Development with 6 models to choose from. You can make a home tour like we had an individual last week, said they loved it out there at Calusa Sunrise. No Mellorews, no homeowners at at Sunrise Landing in Calusa. And remember, phase 1 already sold out, but beautiful models to choose from. So again, go to CalusaSunrise.com, Sunrise Landing from Blazona Development. 138 to 135, Sacramento in double overtime gets the big W.
Raise your hand if you had double overtime on the bingo card.
Yeah,
You'd
good
be
point.
the big winner tonight.
Yeah, that's a good point. And now, obviously there's no practice tomorrow, and you got to regain for Toronto, and then you got a real quick turnaround because that's a 3:00 game on Sunday.
Yeah, and it's a good test for the Kings because you
Yeah.
look at the way their schedule's been, Grant. They have not had a lot of tight windows with a lot of games within them. So, best time to get right as a team is with that ball on the court and that ball moving. So, hopefully they're ready to go.
All right, again, 138 to 135 in double overtime. Sacramento goes to 20-13, and they are 12-6 at home. Now, speaking of the Pelicans and the rest of the teams in the West, all right, because it's really bunched tight
Getting
right
crowded.
now. It is very crowded. So Sacramento and New Orleans are tied. Sacramento 20-13, New Orleans 21-14. All right, so they're basically the same. You have then the Clippers are a game ahead of those two teams at 21-12. So it's Minnesota, Oklahoma City, Denver, the Clippers, then the Kings and the Pelicans, and then a game back of the Kings and the Pelicans is Dallas, and then Houston and Phoenix are 2.5 back. This thing's just, when you lose a game, boy, everything fluctuates in the West right now.
Yeah, that's why they say every game counts. I think it's looking at those teams 4 through 8, Grant, because I think 1 through 4 that's going to be tough to crack right now because those 4 teams just seem to be a bit better than everybody else.
All right. Again, don't forget that we'll be with you for the Toronto game with the pregame, the halftime with Jerry, and the postgame as the Kings will head to the training room, the hot tub, the cold tub, and figure out a way to get ready for this game coming up on Friday. All right, so here's an interesting one. People say that Herter is in a slump. When you do something for over 6 months as a professional, that is who you are. He has to produce to be valuable to the Kings. Well, everyone has to produce to be valuable to the teams. The puzzling thing about Kevin Herter is with Atlanta, and last year we saw how effective he can be. This year he's been awful.
He has. I just think he's gotten different looks. And the looks he's gotten that have been open, he's missed. So 7 rebounds tonight, 2 assists. You can't be too upset with that and just the little bit that he played.
Yeah, but he's a shooter, and he's a shooting guard, and he's getting paid to make buckets. So, yeah.
It's not how the Kings are. Grant, the Kings aren't using him that way.
Well, name me a 2 guard in the NBA that's not used that way. And I know I'm asking you just to fire off the top of your head, but isn't the correct me if I'm wrong here. I'm not saying that in a cynical way, but I'm asking the question. Isn't the 2 guard position in the NBA called shooting guard?
It is. It is called shooting guard.
So you have 2 guards that start now in right. Let's just Duarte replaced Herter. This is what his 3rd or 4th start that can't shoot the ball. So, like, how many teams in the NBA? And Jerry was on earlier today at 4:00. He said that he thinks that's one of the Kings' biggest needs is a 2 guard that can shoot the ball. We know about Malik Monk. I mean, we get that, but Malik's not a starter, at least not right now, Rhino. He may be, but he's not now. I'm just trying to do this off the top of my head. There are very few teams in the NBA that I can think of that have a 2 guard that's not a good shooter. It doesn't make buckets. That's the problem I have.
Hey, you're right, but here's the counter argument. There's Kevin Herter in most offenses in this league would be doing just fine. It would be a completely different style of play. There would be less asked of him. What's being asked of this two guard in Sacramento is much different than probably any other two guard across the league, because you've got De'Aaron right there and you've got Sabonis. I mean, the bar is very low, Grant, and I don't know what a good two guard does to this team.
Okay, so then I'll ask the follow-up question, because you make a very interesting point. Is Kevin Huerter a bad fit for the Sacramento Kings?
I think he is.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because what
Because
you're saying is, I want to make sure that, because I think you bring up a very good point. You're not down on him as a basketball player.
No.
You just don't think that his piece of the puzzle fits in with the other pieces of the puzzle on this team, correct?
No, correct. Kevin Huerter is a finisher. He's not a creator. The Sacramento Kings need a two guard that can create and finish,
Well,
because
great
you're
point.
going to have times where the defense just focuses on De'Aaron Fox or focuses on Domas. And so that's where it becomes a very difficult position to gauge.
Bennett's 3 locations, including this location at the Blue Oaks Town Center in Rockland, Sacramento, Howe and Fair Oaks, in Roseville, Eureka Road and Lead Hill Road, and of course, this Bennett's West Side Grill, the newest of their 3 locations. Prime seafood and steaks at Bennett's. Don't forget about their weekend brunch, their weekend prime ribs, 60 different types of wine available by the glass. If you go to Bennett'sRestaurants.com, you can make a reservation. Check out the menu and more. Check it out. You'll love it. The food is phenomenal at Bennett's and Bennett's West Side Grill, their newest of their 3 locations at the Blue Oaks Town Center in Rockland. Sacramento gets the victory tonight in double overtime, and now it is Toronto on Friday, and then Sunday afternoon it's the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yes, indeed. This Kings team remains relevant, Grant. And I want to go back to Keegan Murray. I thought tonight he made 3 or 4 plays that were probably 3 or 4 of the best plays he's made all year, and just solidified what the Kings management think he can be in the future.
I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be here for many, many years, and I wouldn't trade him personally. Ryan, great show with Napes. Kings showed flashes of good defense in overtime. Why don't they play like that more often throughout the game? I don't think they're capable of it, personally. I mean, we talk about the same thing every single year, and we've been talking about this. We talked about it last year. They're limited to what they can do defensively. Now, Ryan keeps bringing this up. Jerry keeps on bringing this up. I do think the Kings are better defensively this year than last year, and I think one of the main reasons has been the play of Keegan Murray. I think his defense has been much improved this year.
Yeah, Keegan's defense has made a huge difference for this team. And De'Aaron Fox, too. He's not getting enough love for what he's doing defensively some nights.
Yeah, well, again, you have a chance still to make this a really good homestand. But it's not. I'm telling you, Friday's going to be a very challenging game with back-to-back and the number of minutes played. And then you have a team that owns you this year in the Pelicans. So it's going to be these are some interesting games coming up. All right. Make no mistake about it.
They are. And, maybe they close the gap between the inconsistencies and the numbers we worry about with this team, but they just got to take it one night at a time. They did it tonight.
And keep in mind that the Pelicans still have to play the Clippers before they take on Sacramento. Not the night before, but on Friday night.
Yeah.
So
right.
Yep. I think it would have been so hard to come on and do this show tonight with everyone. I think everyone would have been doom and gloom had they lost this double overtime game. Don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't think if it would have been at the last second here, doom and gloom for sure. But the tape wouldn't have lied. I think the tape looks fine for how they performed tonight. I mean,
I agree
there was
with you.
Granted, anything major jump out to you? I mean, think about it. Orlando's a 5 seed in the East. They're a good basketball team.
Did anything jump out to me? Yeah. The fact that their best player had an off night and they still found a way to win the game. And a guy that they rely on every single night is De'Aaron Fox. And yet, on a night when he didn't have his A game or even his B game, they still won. That really stands out to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I've got a little bit of a funny question for you, because you're going to start hearing Domas's name possibly for upcoming player of the week he's had 21 and now tonight 23 rebound games in a very short span. So he's playing great basketball, but we give De'Aaron so much love about if we lost De'Aaron. Is Domas quietly having a very great season with very little help down there?
Well, first of all, I couldn't give him the player of the week with 11 turnovers last night. And how many tonight did I say?
6.
I mean, okay, that's too many turnovers to be player of the week. So I'll say this about DeMontis. He's the type of a guy that wakes up in the morning and has 20 points and 10 rebounds before he gets in the car to go to the gym. Okay. He's that type of a player. And he doesn't wow you, right? He doesn't put you on. He's not Wayne Gretzky on ice. You know what I mean? He's not an edge of the seat guy. He's not flying through the air with Showtime dunks,
Right.
But what he is a consistent all-star professional. All right. He is a professional all-star basketball player. And by that, I mean, he's the same every game. He is consistent every game for the most part across the board. He's human. He will have a bad night every now and then. But Mike Brown knows when he fills out the lineup card what he's going to get every single night from Sabonis. I think he's one of the top forwards in the league. I think the Kings having him on the team was a gigantic trade. I know they gave up Halliburton and Hield, and I know how well Halliburton's playing. But the reality is, we talk about fits. Sabonis is a perfect fit with De'Aaron Fox. They have become one of the top duos in the NBA. Fox and his play does not get to the level that it's at now without Sabonis. So, in my opinion, Sabonis is perfect for this team for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, you make absolute great points. I mean, the two of them play very well off each other, but you did say something that caught my ear. You said forward. Should he be playing forward, and should the Kings be looking for a center?
I always say forward now when I talk about the small forward, power forward, and center position in the NBA. And the reason why I do that is the game is so different now, and there aren't really a lot of centers in the NBA anymore, like the way you and I think of centers.
Sure.
So I always say forward. Yeah, I know he's technically a center, but here are the centers I think of. Like Joel Embiid to me is a center, okay? Like even though he has a 3-point game, but that to me is a center. Most of the guys that play the 5 position in the NBA to me are basically power forwards that are playing center. That's how I look at it. But all right, so should he be playing forward? All right, let's say you move him to the 4. Let's hypothetically, who are you going to put at the 5?
Well, that's maybe the piece you go out and you look to get. I mean, maybe a stretch 5. There's not anybody on the roster right now equipped to do it. The closest I would think would be Alex Len.
I agree. Yeah. Yep.
So, but that's kind of a quiet move, Grant, that people don't talk about much. And that would be a drastic shift to what Sacramento does now, but that can make a lot of difference for them in the games where they're outmatched size-wise.
Could. It could. Now, the question is, who does Sabonis guard on the other end? Does he guard the other team's 4 or the other team's 5?
That's a great question. I think that's where it's a matchup by matchup basis, game to game, with Domas and whoever's playing center next to him, if they brought somebody in that could play that role. And I think there's some players out there, not that they're available.
I've been getting a lot of questions on social media about Vezenkov. I'm not surprised. And by the way, I wouldn't know Sasha Vezenkov if he came down and sat in a chair next to me. Okay. My point is I didn't watch him play in Europe. That's the point I'm trying to make. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sitting here and going to tell you that I know anything about Sasha Vezenkov other than he was the European League MVP. But I told you, Rhino, I talked with 3 European scouts that I know very well. And they all 3, and I talked to them at different times, and they didn't know I was talking to the other. They all 3 told me the same thing. Nothing special. We'll be able to play in the NBA, but will be nothing more than a role player. And don't get too excited because he was the MVP of the EuroLeague. And I think that's what we're seeing. Now, does that mean the guy's never going to be better than he is now? No, that doesn't mean that. But clearly, he's not in Mike Brown's rotation. He's not playing. Doesn't mean he won't be part of the rotation. But I think that those 3 scouts hit it right on the head because that's exactly what it's been so far for his rookie season.
But Grant, compared to and let's for the moment take Trey Lyles out of the conversation.
Okay.
But when you look at everybody else that's playing in front of Sasha right now, I guess I don't see the argument why you're not trying to get Sasha more minutes. I look at him. I mean, who's playing better?
Right. Who are you going to put him in the game for? Are you going to put him in for Barnes? Is that who you're talking about? You want to put Harris?
You throw him in for Barnes. If Lyles needs to go a little bit bigger in terms of guarding, he can. If you need to switch the 2 up. Basically what I'm saying, Grant, the kid's played 3 minutes, 9 minutes, 8 minutes, 6 minutes, 13 minutes, 12 minutes. I don't think he's done anything not to get a shot from Mike Brown.
There are a couple of things that go on with minutes and NBA players. And I talked about this with Davion Mitchell, who played 14 minutes tonight, by the way.
Yeah.
When he wasn't playing. There are a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that we're not privy to as it relates to work ethic, practice. And I'm not saying that's the case with these guys, but I'm using this as a general framework to try to explain to people. Minutes are not solely distributed by just what you see when you turn the TV on or go to the game. There are other factors that play into it. That could be part of the reason with Sasha Vezenkov. Or it could be that when Mike Brown gives him the minutes, he's not doing the things that Mike Brown tells him that he wants. There's a lot of variables that can go.
That could be, yeah.
That, you know, so.
Yeah, if we put up a poll of everybody watching right now, maybe we'll do this when we're done. You know, like, do you have a good taste or a bad taste in your mouth when you think about Sasha? I think overall it would be good.
I don't really. No, I think he's just another guy.
But if we asked the Kings fan base, I think based off of what they've seen from him, it's a good taste, not a bad taste.
No, I don't have a bad taste. It's not bad, but I don't know if this year he'll be a top 8 player on the team. And you win and lose with your 8 guys on the team. That's most teams will win and lose with 8 guys. I don't get caught up in the bottom of my roster. I never have. You know, like tonight, Vezenkov didn't play, Edwards didn't play, Len didn't play, Ellis didn't play. You know.
Okay. Here's the thing, though. You kind of have to get caught up in the bottom of your roster when in losses you're 20 points worse than you are in wins. I mean, you have to look at all these different little things. If the Kings were hum-babying along and they've got a net average like the Celtics, whatever. What are we wasting our time here? But we're searching for answers, and I think it's a fair place to look.
It might be a fair place to look, but I think a better place to look would be players that aren't on the roster currently, because I think the Kings, and I really believe this, at this point in the season, when you played well over a third of your schedule, what is it, 32 games now?
Yeah.
How many games are we talking about? Yeah, 32 games, 33 games? 33 games. Okay. So, I mean, when you're pretty much an injury-free team, they've had some injuries, Fox, but for the most part, they've been pretty good this year. You are who you are. And Mike Brown knows that. There are no rabbits coming out of the hat in the locker room with players that are on the bench that we don't know about. We know who's on the bench. We know what they can and cannot do, as do the other teams. There are no rabbits coming out of the hat this season. So this is who you have to work with. And I think we as fans sometimes tend to overvaluate the players on the roster. And I think that this might be the case. I mean, I'll ask the question this way. If you didn't know anything about Sasha Vezenkov, if you had no idea about his European background, if Sasha was not the European MVP, let's just say he was not the European MVP, which means he wouldn't have gotten the notoriety and the accolades, and the Kings had him, you wouldn't know much about him. Would your expectations be different of him?
No. My expectations have nothing to do with the title that comes with him and everything to do with what I've seen that he's put on.
But I think a lot of the fans do. I think a lot of the fans, because of Luka, and they get their brainwashed and they're like, "Oh, this is
Well,
some great player." No, but I do. I get it on my social
you're
media all
right.
the
You
time.
you
Yeah.
do. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, but I think like with a lot of the fans in the know, like the people watching right now, I think that it's a fair conversation because you
Yep.
say there's no surprises on a roster. Well, it was a surprise to me that Juan Toscano Anderson is getting minutes on the last play of the game defensively. And so when you say there's no rabbits to pull out of that, what are you doing there then?
Well, he just joined the team though. He's a new addition, so I'm not even really including him with the rest of the guys. He's only been on the team for how long now? But
No, but do you understand what I
yeah.
guess I'm making a bigger point to about Mike Brown and the use of the bench. And you're saying Mike Brown knows what he has, and I'm arguing, and I know Juan's newer, but Kessler Edwards, okay, if Kessler goes in there, I get it, Grant. You know what you have. But I just
Okay.
does that not feel like a reach?
There are exceptions to all personnel matters. My feeling has always been that when a player is on a lot of different teams, there's a reason why they're always available. Now, it doesn't mean they can't play, but generally speaking, there's a reason why they can't stay on a team. Now, sometimes it has to do with salary cap, has to do with contracts, it has to do with money. But more times than not, it's because they get somebody that's better, and that player then becomes available. So I don't really get too caught up in these things. I'm always looking at the big picture. You're right. He was on the floor tonight at a critical possession on defense. I get that. But I still see some real issues with this roster that have me remaining skeptical about their ability to have success if they make the playoffs. And I say if because, Ryan, it will only take one bad week of basketball to fall right off the cliff in the West. So I have to say if because I can't forecast injuries or anything else. I do think the Kings are a playoff team, just for the record. I think they will be in the playoffs, but I'm not saying it's a foregone conclusion. We have to put that out there, okay? I think the Kings are a playoff team, but I don't think they could win a playoff series right now. I wouldn't pick them to win a playoff series with any of the teams that are ahead of them, including Oklahoma City. I just wouldn't.
Yeah, I think Vegas would agree with you. I think a lot of Kings fans watching this right now would agree with you. And hopefully that change. I guess the follow-up question then becomes if the Kings are left with the ingredients they have right now, because you've already said you think a move needs to be made. If they're left with these ingredients, what's the ceiling for this team?
45 wins, maybe. Fifth seed, maybe 47 wins, fifth seed. I don't think if they keep the roster the way it is now, I personally don't think, without being able to forecast injuries on other teams, I don't think a top 4 seed's obtainable with the way they're playing right now. So what does that mean? It means that you'd be on the road, which I'm not that worried. This team has played pretty well on the road with this group, so that doesn't bother me as much. I mean, they proved last year in the playoffs they could go win a big game on the road when they went to San Francisco and won Game 6. So that doesn't concern me as much. But matchups, again, I think Denver's still the best team in the West when they're healthy. Minnesota's not going anywhere. The Clippers, when healthy, are better than the Kings. The Oklahoma City Thunder should get better. The issue that I see with them is this is Chet Holmgren's first year, and he's never played this many games, and we always hear about that rookie wall. He's going through it for the first time. It's going to be interesting to see what may happen to him when we get to March and April.
Do you worry also about that Oklahoma City team? It's a different type of basketball that gets played. March, April, May, June. Yeah. Do you think their basketball now translates to then?
No, I'll tell you what translates to me is they have a superstar in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's such a dynamic player, and I'm very well aware that the Kings have 2 wins against them, but they're in Sacramento. I want to see what they do when they go to OKC. I mean, that's a team that just beat the Boston Celtics the other night.
Yeah, to me this year, OKC is this year's Clippers against the Kings. For whatever reason, the Kings play very good games with OKC. They match up well, as Grant just said.
Yep.
And then, what else happens with OKC? Do they make moves at
Good
the
point.
deadline? It'll be interesting to watch. But with SGA at the helm, he's a special guard.
Oh boy.
And he's so different than De'Aaron. The
So
way he
different.
does it is
Yeah.
so different.
Hey, folks, for your plumbing needs and repairs, there's New Works Plumbing. They are available 24/7. And all you need to do is go to sackserviceplumbing.com or call the number on your screen. New Works Plumbing, they've got a fix for you. Again, sackserviceplumbing.com or call the number on your screen. That's New Works Plumbing. Sacramento in a thriller tonight, wins in double overtime. And you know what else? This is a close game that the Kings won. We haven't had many close games to talk about this year, right?
It's all good stuff, Grant. The situations they got put on that were different. They ran some traps. The Kings ran some zone defense too. That's what started this Orlando outburst from beyond the arc.
I love all the people that are taking the time to send messages. I can't put them all up on the screen, but it's nice because everybody else can see what the messages are, and I'm reading most of them. And I think there's a lot of educated fans that join us game in, game out, because I'm reading all of them, and I really agree with most of them. I think you're really astute, and I think that you are absolutely spot on with a lot of the comments that you're making.
They're pretty good. And that's they legitimately, the fans that watch this show, make this show better.
I don't agree with you that no one saw Chet Holmgren having this type of year. I think a lot of people thought Chet Holmgren would have this type of year. I did. I'm not surprised. I picked Oklahoma City to be one of the surprise teams in the league this year, and one of the reasons was Chet Holmgren. I think the guy is dynamic, and like all young players, his health is the key. But if he stays healthy, I think he can be a generational type talent. I really do.
Oklahoma, I'm with you, Grant. Oklahoma City, if they would have had this performance in Chet playing last year,
oh boy,
they would have been a 2 seed. They would have been a 2 seed in the West.
Well, they would have been a playoff team. I can tell you that.
You don't think they'd be the 2 seed? Who's going to be better than Denver last year, or who are they going to be?
You're talking about last year.
Better than OKC.
You know what?
Last year.
I'm not ready to say that. I'll tell you. My feeling is that Chet Holmgren became better by not playing. And what I mean by that is this isn't a true rookie. He was in all the film studies, all the meetings. He got to hang around the players, find out how you be a professional, had NBA coaches in his ear all the time. So he's an advanced rookie this year as opposed to last year. So I'm not ready to go there yet.
Yeah, and he had great people in his corner too. I mean, remember his injury happened. It was at a camp or was it a celebrity?
No, it was in Seattle at an exhibition game.
Yeah.
One of those summer league let's have fun charity games.
Yes, that's what I was just gonna say. Charity.
Yeah.
So he's had good people though helping him out. And Grant, how much of a difference does that make? 'Cause you've seen it a few times through the years. Probably Harry Giles, the latest, where a rookie completely sits that first year.
Well, what do we always hear in the NFL when a high draftee comes in and they don't start him right away and he learns the ropes, and a lot of quarterbacks
Aaron
will
Rodgers.
tell you, yep, he's one, but it was several years with him. But there's a lot of learning that goes on by watching and being around. So I haven't had a lot of experience with players in Sacramento that didn't play their rookie year. Harry's one of them, but Harry unfortunately just has had many streaks of injuries. But it can only help, Ryan. It can't do anything but help,
Yeah, get you settled in, get you used to a different life in a new city.
Hey, I really appreciate everyone joining us tonight. I'll give you some final thoughts, Mr. Ryan in Sacktown.
Great win by the Kings tonight. Two things to look at here. In my opinion, the Kings, their value that they hold with Keegan Murray and the way they see him was validated on 3 or 4 plays tonight that were grown-up NBA all-star plays. So pretty cool to see that. And the value of Malik Monk to this team, and not only on the court for this team, but what he could possibly fetch for this team if he might not be in the long-term future.
Jessica, we really appreciate that comment. Love the post-game show, guys. Local broadcast post-game is painful to watch. I'm switching starting today. Jessica, I really appreciate
Thank
that.
you.
And if you wouldn't mind, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe, Jessica, because if you're new, I want to let you know that every Wednesday at 4 o'clock, we do a show with Jerry Reynolds. He was on today. When you get done here, you can go and watch it at your leisure. Ryan does a 30-minute pregame show. All right. Then Jerry joins us at halftime. So the three of us are on at halftime. And then we have what we have now, the post-game show. So we appreciate that, Jessica. Thank you very much for joining us. All right. Have a great night, Grant and Ryan. Love this. Always find myself smiling while I watch. Well, again, we can't do it without you all, so we appreciate it. To Jessica and Boki, and I've seen everyone else watching from around the world. We got the Philippines checking in. I want to know, I hope Eduardo in Chile is okay. I haven't heard from Eduardo lately. I'm a little worried about him. Baki's always there. I mean, I don't think the guy sleeps. I think, I saw him on the post game with you the other night, and he said he was sick. Yeah, you know why he's sick? Because he only sleeps 2 hours a night. That's why he's sick. His body's worn down. Right?
He looked like he was in just fine health. Baki looked just good to go.
Yeah. Here you get the honest truth always, 100% of the time. Thank you very much. You guys have the best setup, pre-half, and post-game. Thank you very much. We really appreciate the support. We really do. Baki is laughing. He likes that one. Yeah, well, it's true, buddy. It's true. Dobo Utro. All right. Well, first of all, it might even be afternoon over there. It's so late right now.
It is late.
Riots if Monk leaves. Well, I'm just telling you, okay? I'm not saying he wants to leave. Here's what I'm saying, okay? You got to get the checkbook out. He ain't taking any hometown discount. You better get the checkbook out. And you also have to understand, okay, your tickets are going to be going through the roof because you have Keegan Murray who's going to get a big-time deal at the end of next season, all right?
You think it'll be the end of next season? You don't think they'll play it out a little bit longer?
No.
You think it'll be the end of the third?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So really quick, I know we're wrapping up. If you had to make the decision today, is Keegan Murray a max player today?
He will be next year. He's not today. No, not a max player today, but he will be at the end of next year. If the growth continues the way it is, yes, he'll be a max player. Absolutely.
Doesn't max player mean something different to a team like Sacramento and a market like Sacramento? Because that's really how you grow your franchise. That's how you win a championship in a small market.
Well, yeah, it does mean something different. You're not going to get the big time free agents to come in. Thank you for subscribing. All right. Appreciate that. Thank you. No max on Keegan. Well, not now, but when it comes time, yes, it will. Now, could you could pick up his option in the 4th year, and then at the end of that year, he would be a restricted free agent, and then you could match any offer. You could go that route, but I would say it's more unlikely if that would happen. But, you don't have to worry about that right now.
No, enjoy the ride. And just remember, not all moves have to be big moves. I would tell you, keep an eye on Dennis Schroeder tomorrow. He's playing pretty good for Toronto. Might be a little lost in the shuffle. Kings need
I like Dennis Schroeder. I like Schroeder. He's a very good player. I've always liked Dennis Schroeder. Yeah.
Grant, you said they need a veteran point guard.
Oh, boy. I'll pick him up at the airport.
Keep your eyes open.
I'd pick him up at the airport. He'd be perfect. But if he's
keep your eyes open.
Yeah, I would take him in a heartbeat. The question is, what do you have to give up to get him? But I love him. I think he would be perfect.
Well, if Toronto is trying to get rid of Pascal, that means everybody else is probably available. So
yeah. Hey, I want to say thank you very much to everyone for joining us right here. We appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget to subscribe if you have not already done so, and please hit the thumbs up. Give us a like. It would mean the world to us. Rhino, great job today, my friend. It was a busy day. We were on at 3 o'clock this afternoon with Sean Salisbury, 4 o'clock with Jerry, then pre-half post-game shows. So it's time to go to sleep. All right?
Yeah. Got to eat dinner first. Eat dinner first, but then go to sleep.
All right. I appreciate you, buddy. And I appreciate each and every one of you watching, not only in Sacramento and Northern California, but around the world. Thank you. We'll talk to you for the Kings and the Raptors. So long, everybody. Stay safe.